Finding the perfect controller for your Nintendo Switch. Has the search finally ended? We're gonna find out. Hello and welcome back to Gears and Tech. So as you heard in the intro clip, we are searching for the best controller add-on option for our Nintendo Switch. Now, let me explain the problem first. This is a PlayStation 5 controller. You guys have probably seen this. If you've seen videos on this channel, you know that I love my PlayStation 5 controller. Now, this controller is kind of big. It's the biggest PlayStation controller that they've made so far. And it took some getting used to holding it in my hands, but now my hands are kind of bigger and it fits pretty good. So when I got my Switch and I held it for the first time in my hands, I noticed a few things. First of all, it is noticeably thin, especially when you compare to like a PlayStation 5 controller. If we turn it around, you can see that here as well, and from the side profile. It's a considerable size difference. So it took a lot of getting used to. And the small analog sticks and the weird place triggers, not to mention the kind of Xbox-esque layout, it makes it a hard console to kind of bridge that gap on to use in just for everyday gaming. It's very hard to get used to. Now that's where something like this comes in. Now this is the Dolby controller. It's kind of generic sounding, so I don't have very high hopes for it, but we're going to unpack it and then go through the features of this controller, and we're gonna see if it's any good. Before we get too far into this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below. If you've seen some of our content already and have not subscribed, we want you to join our community. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's get back to the video. First off, we just need to cut these little tabs here. Peel this back like that. And the controller's bubble wrapped. It's got some instructions and it's got this guy here. Now we'll get into what this is in a minute, but first of all, let's talk about these instructions. They are pretty basic. There's not a whole lot to them. Controller upgrade. I don't know, they're basic. And it's just packed in bubble wrap. There's not a whole lot to this thing. So this is the controller. First off, what you're gonna notice is this is not like your typical controller like you're used to, where you can remove them like this and get a different controller and slide it on like that. So the features of this are its unique dock design. So it's got a USB-C port on the bottom. The Switch would obviously slide right into here. It has massive trigger buttons and L1 and L2 buttons, or R1, R, L, and RZR. I don't know, I don't use the Switch that much. The nice thing about this is the size of the analog stick. When we compare this to the analog stick on my PlayStation 5 controller, it's very comparable in size. And the first trick up its sleeve is this secondary controller. So you see that, and then you see this bag with orange things in it. And if I go like this, dump that out, what you'll notice is there's a mushroom top option and there's more of like a nub option. So this is actually swappable. So if we pop this off like that, you can have one of these three. So you just stick this guy on like that, and then instantly you've got a mushroom top, or you pop that off and pop this guy on, and then instantly you've got a nub. Now this nub is very reminiscent of a GameCube controller, the little C nub that was on there. So if you're used to your GameCube controller, this might be exactly what you're looking for. In fact, I've never used that like that, but it's not bad. I don't hate it. But for me, I was looking for the most PlayStation 5-like, so I'm gonna use the standard concave top. Stick that back on, and that's how we're gonna test this out today. The buttons are also full-size buttons, similar again to your PlayStation 5 controller or whatever full-size console controller you're used to. It does have a D-pad, which is comfortable. The buttons are somewhat clicky. They're like a clicky mushy. When I test this, all of the buttons, these buttons here, all these four here are clicky. They're like mouse click kind of buttons. These guys they feel about the same as the PlayStation 5 controller actually. So they're responsive feeling. The analog sticks work pretty good. They feel full size. The triggers are just triggers. There's no adaptability to them, but your Switch controller has the same kind of triggers anyway. Now, if I look on the back of the box, it does kind of cover some of the highlights. So this does have the 6-axis gyro built in. It has fast charging support through the USB. So we didn't really talk about this, I guess. So it's got a USB-C port right there, which you'll plug the Switch into, but it also has a USB-C port on the bottom. So this will allow you to plug it into your charger and charge your Switch. If you have a fast charger, it will fast charge your Switch. So it acts as a pass-through, but the way that it uses the controller, there's no batteries in this. So once it's docked in here, it's like a Pro controller or using a wired Pro controller. That's kind of the format that it uses. Now, we already talked about the 3 different sizes of thumbsticks. If I go up here, you can see what those look like. It does support dual motor vibration. It's not the HD vibration that you're used to on the standard Nintendo Switch controller. So this is just regular rumble. So if you have a game that requires the HD rumble, this does not support that. So you will want to keep that in mind depending on the game that you're playing. If it requires the HD rumble, this is not what you're looking for. And then it has what they call a sweat-proof design. And we can explain that by just the contour, just the textures that are on here, make it so that there's some airflow. So while you're holding it, it does allow that air to pass over that. Now, I don't really have hot hands when I'm playing games. They don't get really overly sweaty. So it's not a concern for me, but if sweat is a concern for you, then this might be kind of a design that you want to consider. Next thing to do is just put our Switch on here. Now, before you put it on, you do need to put it into wired, whatever mode. So you want to go to the settings and go to Pro Controller Wired Communication. You can see that right there. You want to make sure that that is turned on, Wired Pro Controller Communication. Once you've done that, then we can simply slide this in. And now we're connected, and now it's paired. So if I go like this, now I've got full control of this. So let's look at some of the functions of this now that it's docked. First off, it does have air channels here to allow for the cooling to come in, and then obviously the cooling comes right out the top, just like your regular Switch would. It also has this little notch right here to allow you to open up your game port without it getting in the way. So you can swap the game. Not all of these docks have that in mind. Now, other than that, there's not a lot to it. This is quite reasonably priced. It was under $50 Canadian on Amazon. I will put a link in the description down below for this. So now let's talk about actual hands-on for the controller. Now, I've tested a lot of different controllers on this channel already. You've seen those controllers before. We've tried controllers like this. We've tried different Amazon specials. I've gone all the way up to some pretty expensive controllers, and I just wasn't happy with really any of them. It was hard to recommend any of those controllers. However, this one seems quite different. So the first thing I noticed right off the bat is that the analog sticks are highly responsive. So a downside of a cheap Amazon controller is the analog sticks seem to have a lot of dead zone. What I mean by dead zone is when you move the analog stick just a little bit, you want to see the movement move a little bit on the screen, and then you go a little bit more, it goes a little bit more, and then you go all the way, and it goes all the way. What I found with the other controllers with that dead zone was you had to move it almost half of its throw before anything started happening on the screen. And usually the game would freak out and say, whoa, he's like at half throttle already, or he's already halfway running or whatever. So if you're playing a game that requires precise, fine movements, you couldn't do it with the aftermarket controllers that I was testing before. Contrast that with this one. This one's very precise, it's very accurate. You can move it a little bit and it registers that little bit of movement. So it's highly precise. The one thing that a lot of people complain about is this analog stick. It's plastic. It's not like this one's got kind of a rubbery texture to it. This one's just this plastic, and all of the options are a shiny plastic. They're kind of slippery. Now you can counter that with just a thumbstick cover, which would give it that rubber grip if that's what you're looking for. Again, I can put a link in the description for those. However, I'll tell you, after using this myself, it hasn't been a problem. I've played Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on it. It performs flawlessly. I've played a couple other games, Grand Theft Auto, Lego Racers, and every single function that you need on here works beautifully, and it's highly responsive. The only thing that I wasn't sure about was kind of this docked design. The biggest downside with that is this will not fit in your Switch dock anymore like this. You would have to remove it and then put it in the dock if you were planning to use it in docked mode. So that is certainly a downside, and it's something to consider if you're thinking about buying one of these for yourself. However, it is way more sturdy, and I'm less worried about just kind of hucking this around, throwing it in a bag. It seems to hold up to the abuse quite well. So overall, I can actually confidently recommend that this controller is on your list of controllers to try. It works really well, and the downsides that I've listed have not been a downside for me, so I have no complaints. I just want to make sure you guys understand that there are some downsides potentially, depending on what your use case is. Hey, thanks for watching all the way to the end of this video. We hope you enjoy the content in this video, and we'd love to have you come back. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And for those subscribers who are looking for that extra special thing that you can do to support this channel, consider joining our members group. That's where we're building this community, the Gears and Tech community, where we can all enjoy content together. You'll get special perks, which we'd love for you to check out by clicking the link down below. For those of you who are just happy to watch the video, that's okay too. You can check out some of our other content right over here, where we've got some previous videos that have already been uploaded and enjoyed by many of our viewers already. We do hope to see you again. This has been Gears and Tech. Have a great day.